Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. In this conversation, we're chatting with Jim Laney, head of school at the American Embassy School in New Delhi. Our full podcast conversation discusses the ways that many middle leaders are also coaches, as well as Jim's personal experience being coached as a school leader and the structures in place at AES to provide coaching support to all school leaders. This spotlight highlights the power of coaching to help support growth across the school and the importance of coaches being in classrooms. This episode is a great reminder that coaches are leaders too, and the work we do is essential to the development of new school cultures of teaching and learning in our school contexts. If you enjoy any part of this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more conversations like this, please subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell to find out every time we release a new episode. Remember, you can also listen to the full Coach Better episode wherever you get your podcasts. We are passionate about the impact coaching can have on student learning, school culture, and teacher professional growth, and we want to help you coach better. If you enjoyed today's episode, you are going to love our new resource for instructional coaches that you can find at coachbetter.tv/start. As requested by our listeners and viewers, we are compiling all of our coaching resources in one place just for you, and we are just getting started, so check back often for more updated content. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better. Today, CLINT and I are super happy to be here with Jim Laney, current head of the American Embassy School in New Delhi. Jim, we're so happy to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Great. Jim, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about your education background?
You bet. I trained originally as an engineer, but I left the United States to join the Peace Corps in 1983 and to be a teacher, and never really looked back. So I did return to get a master's degree in New York City, and then left again the second time in 1989. And since that time, I work in international schools in Cyprus and in Taiwan, in Warsaw, in Addis Ababa, and most recently here in New Delhi. And I've had a wide variety of roles in elementary, middle, and high school, in science, in mathematics, in computer science education, as well as technology and technology coordination. I became a general administrator in 2001, and since then, and I've been a head of school for 10 years now.
Such a great adventure. I love you have the same kind of story, like I went abroad one time for one thing, and then I was like, I'm never coming back again. I feel like lots of the people we talk to have a similar kind of, oh, what an amazing adventure. Let's just keep going. So that's super cool to hear.
Certainly couldn't have planned it.
No, exactly. From all your experience in all these places and your current kind of perspective as a school leader, what are your thoughts on coaching? What do you think about coaching? Where does it fit in the school? What's your first go-to thought?
Well, my first experience with learning about coaching and thinking about it for our school was in Addis Ababa. And this probably was around 2010. And really just trying to figure out how to support greater change and build more momentum for strong teaching and learning in a way that was not that did not necessarily need to be supervisory, but also my interest in sort of empowering some people who were really good teachers in a way that would allow them to take a good sort of mid-level leadership role. Education is traditionally very flat. You have 50 teachers supervised by an administrator who may be supervised by another administrator in a different building or different part of the city. Not a real supportive environment for growing and learning. And I think coaching helps fill that and creates a step for people who really have a lot to offer.
That is such a good point. And I think it's wonderful when school leaders recognize the power of that intermediary kind of not official leadership role, but that opportunity to lead from the middle or kind of have a grassroots leader. How, when you were looking at this back in 2010 in Addis, how did you, what drew your attention to coaching, and how did you see that fitting in with your already existing school hierarchy? How did that work?
Well, I think part of it was just a bit of a frustration that as administrators, as principals, I think we had a full-time AP at the time in the elementary. We had a curriculum director. It was just not possible for us to get into classrooms often enough to be working with people. And I've always felt that I was a fairly safe, guy to fail in front of, or to struggle with, or to admit that you were challenged learning something new. But I have to recognize that I am your supervisor, and many people are not going to feel a comfort level in admitting struggles or admitting challenges, or even it's not a safe place to fail or to be learning necessarily with a supervisor. As much as I feel like, I got into all this through technology coordination, and I was always kind of, the knight in shining armor on the white, charger coming to the rescue. And people were very okay with admitting they didn't know how to do things, on those old Apple IIes and 2GSs. And I had to recognize that we just weren't there enough, and that we had the wrong relationship to support change, to support growth. I guess at this time we were also, beginning to realize that teachers needed to be learners too, and it's hard to encourage that as a supervisor, and to support that. So coaching really seemed like a natural. I think at the same time I was realizing that we don't support great teaching and learning. We don't support change, positive change and positive momentum from an office. It just doesn't happen. You have to be in classrooms, and especially in international school where you have so many other things that are distracting your attention around local laws and relationships that are challenging to figure out, and housing that you've got to do, and just everything. You're really on your own with all of that. It just makes it even harder to be in classrooms enough to support great teaching and learning and to support educational change. And so coaching just seemed like a real natural way to fill some of those gaps.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation, and there is so much more on the audio version. Don't miss subscribing to our podcast on any of your podcast subscribers under Coach Better.